So I'm moving back to Brooklyn. Long and mostly boring story, but mostly it's because I want to be in the city again. Last time I lived there in 2018, I was in beautiful Bay Ridge with incredible Middle Eastern restaurants, adorable public parks, and a stunning view of the Verrazano Bridge and the Lower Bay. Bay Ridge is quiet, affordable, and like most of New York City's outer neighborhoods, full of lovely people, outdoor spaces, food, and a great energy. But Bay Ridge, like a lot of New York City's outer neighborhoods, is also far away from the centers of culture and entertainment. It's only on a single train line, the R, which means that visiting friends in other parts of Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, etc., meant a pretty long commute. This time, I'm moving to Borum Hill, not far from downtown Brooklyn. You get less space for the money, yes, but I'll be walking distance from Barclays Center and the Brooklyn Academy of Music, 3 train stops to Prospect Park and the Brooklyn Museum. And Atlantic Station is right there too, which gets me direct access to the B, D, N, Q, R, 2, 3, 4, and 5 trains, and the A, C, G, and F trains are just 2 blocks further. That's almost every train in the city, not to mention the LIRR, which can get me out to New York Islanders games in 20 minutes, plus city bikes all over the neighborhood. There's an old cliche in real estate: location, location, location. And I'm sad to trade in a beautiful view and the relative quiet of Bay Ridge, but being near downtown Brooklyn is going to be, it will be noisier to be sure, but I'm thrilled to be so close to almost every place else in the city. I'm excited to have a 15-minute ride home on Friday nights after seeing a show instead of 55 minutes. I bring up real estate partially because it's been top of mind for me in my apartment search, but also because it was a huge question I had during this week's movie. John Krasinski's incredible apocalyptic thriller, A Quiet Place. The monsters hunt by sound. So why did we choose a farm up in the Catskill Mountains where every sound is amplified, easily hearable? We learn early in the movie that fishing by the stream is so safe because the noise of the rushing water covers the sound that they make. Listen, I can attest the Catskills are a beautiful place to live. The views are to die for. But come on, location, location, location. Can I interest you folks in a riverside villa? Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Okay, you have to move back to New York City, but rent is no object.
Oh,
Somebody else
okay.
is just going to pay for your apartment, like within reason, like a 2 bedroom, wherever you want it. What neighborhood are you going to move to? If you don't
So I
have to
can't
worry
live in
about.
like Tavern on the Green.
No, 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 no. You can't be like,
Okay.
I want a top floor apartment that is like 18,000 square feet.
Just call me Eloise
But
here at
like,
the
you
plaza.
can have a 2.5 bedroom apartment, like a really nice apartment. But what neighborhood do you want to live in if you don't got to worry about rent?
Oh, that's so hard. Man, it's been a while since I've thought about all the city business.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like something between like 14th Street is so busy and so hectic. I think maybe moving out to Brooklyn, and you're right, find something near Prospect Park. Like that's
Yeah.
really like the lungs of New York City is either Central Park or Prospect Park. And if you have that within a 5 to 10 minute walk, then that forgives a lot.
Yeah. I was sort of, when I was looking back at the at New York City, it's funny because I was thinking about living in Manhattan because I'm like, oh, it's just so close. I'm gonna go see I will want to see
Yeah.
shows a lot, and Manhattan would be great for that. I also thought about, you know, Grand Central because I was like, wow, that's Grand Central Station, like the hub of what. I'm like, no, it's not the hub of the subway though. Like only 2 train lines run through that
Yeah.
place. The
Yeah.
the the, the
Grand
green and the
Central
purple. Yeah.
or what is the Port Authority?
Port,
Like
yeah.
when let's just right up, can I just live next to Port Authority? That sounds
I
amazing.
I could start a methadone addiction and
Great.
move to Port Authority. It'd be great.
I used to when I was auditioning a lot, and before I lived in New York City and still going up to do auditions, a friend of mine had one of those like she was subletting from a subletter who had not lived in the apartment in like 10 years kind of situation. And
Hmm.
it was legit above the military supply store across
Oh,
the street from Port Authority. So one, the light pollution was insane. It was just like constant all the time. And the noise was the 3 o'clock a.m. bus now leaving for Poughkeepsie, leaving on gate number 12 all night long. But it was New York City, so I didn't care, and I was so excited.
yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I remember those early days, being in my early 20s and coming to New York City and staying with friends in the East Village. Be like, this is the dream life. And my friend Susanna being like, I live in a literal closet that my roommates called a bedroom and are charging me like $700 a
Yeah.
month for.
No light, no
Uh-huh.
doors. No, you
No
just live in a
window.
box. You
Yeah.
just live in like we cut little holes into a shoebox so you can breathe, and that
Yep.
is your space.
Yeah.
Much like what they're going to put that baby in this movie.
Yeah. That's absolutely.
That's a New York
Absolutely.
City apartment.
It totally it was so hard not to think about New York City apartment, because my theory on New York City apartments is that like you really, because the apartments in New York City are kind of janky and tiny,
Mhm.
noisy or
Yeah.
whatever. The goal is, the reason why everything is open late, the reason why the subways run 24 hours is not just because of the heavy population. The reason like everything is open till 4 a.m. is because we're doing our best just to not go home, to
Yeah.
be in the apartment. You just really have a bed, a place to sleep, and
A
then you get
bed, you
up.
have one plant, you have one place to sit,
Yep.
and 2 dishes.
So you want to stay out all night. You're like, I don't need to be back home. What
That's
am
it.
I doing here?
Just please keep me out of this place.
And in this movie, they do have a really beautiful, very spacious home that
Yeah.
they found, but it's also a little bit like it is cramped because of the situation that they're in.
They got to do some renovations. There's some remodeling to be done.
What, more of an open floor plan?
Do you think that was their house? That's
That's
always
a
been their house? Or do you think that is something that they've scavenged post-apocalyptic and they're like, no, we're going to live here?
My guess was, I thought about this while rewatching this movie, is I think it is their house because they have so many pictures up.
Okay.
Now we don't really
True.
get a close up on all the pictures on the wall. We get like a moment where she picks up a framed picture off a
Sure.
end table.
Yeah.
So that very well could have just been the only picture that was of them. But I would have been very curious for the camera to linger on the wall and see family portraits of
Can you imagine it's like
not
somebody else?
the Krasinskis. Yeah.
I think at one point, yeah, like I think at one point Emily Blunt does kind of like in that big wall of pictures, kind of like, fix one. So she has an investment to it that
Yeah.
tells me that this has always been their house.
Yeah.
This has always been their farm.
Yeah.
They were corn farmers, and they're like, no, fuck it. We're hunkering down here.
Yeah.
The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And then
Yeah.
just like build our, death trap room underneath.
Yeah. Up here in Tannersville or whatever. Yeah. And anyways, it's really interesting rewatching this movie. I like this movie a lot. It's really fun. It's tense. Like the
It's
whole
so
movie is
tense.
about tension.
Yeah.
100% about tension. But this second watching for me, I was, one side effect of doing this podcast and taking notes is I become much more hyper aware of all the ways that a plot doesn't work. I had a lot of questions about this movie.
Sure.
Okay, let's start with day 89, our prologue.
Oh my God, day 89. What happened to day 1, Jeffrey?
Oh no, we're deep into this whatever infestation of blind alien creatures that hunt by sound.
Yeah.
And we see a deserted small town Americana. It looks very upstate New York.
Looks very Appalachian.
Mm-hmm. We see missing posters. This very 28 Days Later sort of look. And we're in an empty drugstore. There's like a kid running around. We meet Evelyn. So we have the parents.
Yep.
Evelyn and Lee, played by Emily Blunt and John Krasinski.
The Abbotts.
The Abbotts. And they have their teenage daughter, Reagan, who is deaf.
Yes.
And they have 2 small boys. The middle child is Marcus, and the youngest child is Bo.
Oh, Bo.
Bo is not afraid.
Bo, he should be, though.
He should have been.
He should be a little more afraid.
He should have been. We may be the wrong people to talk about this part of the movie, but this is a movie about what it means, in a lot of ways, about what it means to have children and to protect children.
Yeah.
And you and I are non-childrened.
No, unchilded.
We are unchilded.
I actually just unfriended my child on all the social platforms. No, I thought about that. Like this, The Last of Us. Gosh, there's the girl with all the gifts. A lot of the it's so funny how, especially just watching Day of the Dead, which is essentially a similar, like, once the firestorm has calmed down, what do you do
Yeah.
kind of movie. But I think we're having this renaissance of these sort of post-apocalyptic movies right now. It's very much like trying to, I feel like in the 80s and maybe 90s, it was much more like protect yourself first and foremost.
Yeah.
Maybe if you see somebody who like can't help themselves, then, bring them as part of your crew.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it's like, look out for number one.
Mm-hmm.
Versus like this movie is so different, which is much more trying to like tug on the protector vibe.
Yeah.
The like smart is great, strong is great, but unless you're using your smarts and your strengths, not just to like eat and poop and not get eaten, it really does have to be like, what are you doing it in service for? Like, what are you tapping into that like warrior energy to protect?
Yeah. And I really love it because it gets at the heart of the apocalypse film. There is, as you said, survival.
Yeah.
But in this, it's also a little bit, what does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to become a human? Actually, not be a human, but become one. How do you shape a child? There's a moment where like Evelyn is homeschooling Marcus in math. And I'm like, when is he going to use math? There is no currency left. There is no like, are you going to need math?
Well, when the cannibals from the road roll through, and you need to bargain with them, you'll need to know your fractions.
That's true. I guess you're going to have to build things, and math is very important in construction. So you're going to need to know your angles, your measurements, all that kind of stuff. But but it's all part of teaching math. It's really less about math and more about sitting down with your child and educating them and bonding with them and teaching your child that you can fish by the river because of the way sound works. You are protected behind this waterfall. And there's so many beautiful parental moments. And in an era wherein we are facing in real life a slower but still an impending sort of apocalypse, there is a sense of still, how do you talk to your children? How do you empower them to understand that they are who they are? How do you let them know that they are loved no matter who or what they are or what they will become? So they're in this drugstore and they're looking for medicines because Marcus is sick. And they are just kind of on a shopping spree, right? There's almost nobody left in the world.
Yeah, pretty much.
And Bo is really taken with rockets.
He likes rockets. I mean, who doesn't?
No, he loves, and he tells Regan, this is how we'll escape. This is how we'll get out of here.
You see her face. She's like, oh, dear.
Good luck with that, pal. And he also finds a space shuttle toy, a plastic space shuttle toy. And
almost drops it
once. So we were very set up for everybody is quiet. This movie's been out 5 years, so I think everyone kind of knows the premise of the film, even if they haven't seen it at this point. But it is a great setup. Like, you want to let people know what level of noise is acceptable. And dropping a fucking walking around, fine. Whispering, fine. Opening a bottle,
even that's borderline.
It's very careful. Yeah, you're reaching the limit there, but
any kind of clatter is verboten
indeed.
Which is interesting because I don't know, nature's loud as fuck, Jeffrey. Like, wind knocks things over all the time. Things crumble, things decay, and I wonder, like, are these aliens just attacking like raccoon? Well, we see one attack a raccoon and kill it because the raccoons were making too much damn noise.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much like these aliens must be on the alert all the time.
I really want, maybe they address this in Quiet Place too, I don't know, but I really want to see day 1, day 2, day 3, and I want to see it in New York City. I want to see it in Tokyo. I want to see it in like where there's so much noise.
Yeah.
Like
that
where
they're just
they
like
just like is
they
New
can't
York
see
City
anything. Yeah, it's like being in a rainstorm where you like all it just drowns out all other noise.
my theory would be like the cities are actually pretty good because the noise is too overwhelming for these
Yeah.
noise sensitive creatures.
So they can't pinpoint any one
Or
thing.
or maybe it was just a bloodbath. Like for them it was like
Yeah, I
shooting
think
fish in a
so.
barrel, sort of that cliche.
Can I spoil it? Can I spoil A Quiet Place too?
Please.
The opener is day one.
Okay.
Like John Krasinski comes back, and it is like, I think if I remember right, I think it's him. And it's very much like out in this little village that we've seen that is now 90 days later, and it's very much like, what did the fall of civilization look like?
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right.
But
Maybe
not
I'll get on
Manhattan.
that.
Definitely
Hey,
small town USA.
okay. Well, he wants to take this space shuttle, but mom and dad are like, absolutely not. Because that is a noise making toy, uneducated child.
I love this because okay, so we've had the pitter patter of little feet, which is
Mhm.
kind of terrifying, as we
Mhm.
all know. But we're like, okay, so not because a lot of this opening shot is like, who are these people? What's going on? Okay, they seem benign, great. But when this kid pulls out this toy, we don't actually see it at first. And I think like Evelyn and Lee see it, and the look on their face is like this child has just picked up a scorpion full of rabies.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
horror on their faces.
Yeah.
And this kid's like, I found a spaceship. So quietly, delicately, like with like expert surgeon precision, they remove the batteries.
Uh-huh.
And then we get the first in a series of, John Krasinski just like shakily putting his finger to his mouth. Shh. Which we get a lot in this movie.
Yeah. We also so Regan, as they're leaving the store, Reagan, she
Reagan.
sees
Mhm.
she sees that Bo is sad.
Oh.
And so she gives him the space shuttle without the batteries in it. But we see him kind of, as he's the last one, he sees the batteries there. And it's like, So
Bo
they're
should be more afraid.
Bo should be way more afraid. And they're crossing the bridge back home. And that kid takes that toy out, turns it on. It's like
Do you remember those ringtones were everywhere? It was like
the
you could hear them like 500 miles away.
that Nokia that made that.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
like
Yeah.
I swear I could hear them like from like 2 flights up in my apartment building. I was like, so, well, somebody's getting a phone call.
I this also the scene where they're crossing the bridge is great because it's we start setting up that there are going to be moments in the film where we get not point of view but point of hearing
Yeah,
of characters.
what Reagan hears.
So the camera shows a close up on Reagan, and we realize we know from her hearing aid that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just kind of
But it adds like some texture. It's not pure void because
Yeah.
like she takes it off and then we hear pure void. But there is, it kind of gives her a +2.
Yes.
Like 2% more hearing.
But not to where she can hear dialogue or really
Yeah.
any detailed noise. And I love this because we see the backs of her parents' heads because they're
Mhm.
walking in front carrying the sick Marcus. And then we see her right behind them, but the camera is directly on her face with no sound. And you see her face go wild because she doesn't hear the space shuttle go off.
But she's reacting to her
She sees her
mom's.
mom and
Yeah.
dad turn around.
Oh, that's so scary because you're
This
like, what's good? What is the
sound
child
work
just
in this movie is incredible, and the
it's
choices that
so
they make.
textured.
Yeah.
Like we talk about like sort of room tone. This
Mhm.
has like 20 different room tones for every room they're in.
Yeah.
Depending on the situation.
And this Bo is just standing at the base, the foot of the bridge, not the foot, but the end of the bridge, just soaring his little space shuttle every
Just
which
being a
way.
child.
And dad is running at him, and he sees Monster coming right for boy, and then too late, Monster snags the child, goes black, title card.
Now, Jeffrey, I think these monsters have tapped into like maybe your two of your bigger fears, which is like spiders and ears. They're just giant ear spiders.
They're really weird.
They're like the Skeksis.
Yeah,
Or no, they're like the Landstriders from the Dark Crystal.
totally. Yeah.
Kind of that sort of like stilt spider walk kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if their heads were just made of ears.
I love the alien design in this, but it's a little bit like M. Night Shyamalan's Signs, wherein the terror of the movie changes the moment you see the full alien.
Yeah.
And so late in the film, as we get full body shots of these aliens, I'm just like, okay, this just feels like really cool effect, really cool design. No longer scared of you. Like, you're a scary looking creature, but I'm no longer like, the terror is always in never quite seeing them.
Yeah, they move
on.
so fast.
Yeah.
And they're quick and they're fast and they're hunters.
Yeah.
As we will learn in the show your work basement, which is one of my favorite
yes.
movie tropes. Show your work. Let's see that brainstorm process.
Mm-hmm.
Armor? Question mark. Hearing? Question mark.
Well, here we are, day 472, almost a year later.
Woof.
Reagan's having bad dreams, remembering Bo getting got, and she's going to be blaming herself throughout this entire movie for this. She's going to be internalizing the blame of, I gave him that thing.
Yeah.
They've got their cute little farmstead, and inside the farmstead, they've converted the study into a full-on like security center.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. We do see him taking a camera from the drugstore. So
yeah.
He's obviously, stocking up on any type of CCTV equipment he can get, because he wants to make sure he's got a whole security system. He wants to make sure none of the monsters are getting near them. And there's a whiteboard and newspaper articles all over the wall. My favorite is the New York Post. It's sound.
Of course, it's the Post. I mean, the Post is like pretty trash, but it does give you the best headlines.
It does.
And again, it echoes Day of the Dead, where like the dead walk.
Yeah.
Kind of like that's really all, like really in these movies, they're like, no, we don't need to see day one. We're going to start you at day 90. Here's the headlines.
Yep.
Let's move on.
Yeah. You're right. What's the famous New York Post headline? They have a lot of them, but the famous one is headless body found behind topless bar.
Oh my God.
Okay.
That's a lot of less.
Yeah, it is, but it's very funny.
We need a top or a head or both.
Headless topless is
but
very
not
funny.
Both.
So Leah had also taken some equipment to build out his little radio, so he's doing Morse code tapping SOS,
trying to see if anybody else is out there. Which is, my dad used to do ham radio stuff, and like he had emergency tags on his license plate or in his driver's license plate just for this exact reason, that like if the grid were to ever go down, ham radio operators like being able to communicate with other people, boost signals, be able to communicate was like huge.
But we can see his list of people that there's none to be found, and everyone is a red line through it.
Yep.
We also see that Evelyn is pregnant.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Which
I did not grok until until well into this second act. I was like, she's real pregnant. Okay, here we go. And it wasn't until like I saw the little crib with the, they're prepping the baby's room.
Yeah,
a quiet place, a super quiet place.
She made a mobile, but the mobile to go above the crib is all plushy, so it doesn't make any noise.
It doesn't make noise.
Their Monopoly board, they've replaced all the tokens with like little soft little cotton swabs, so it doesn't go
colored. Clack, 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 clack.
They're rolling the dice on the rug.
Always on the rug.
Yep. And so the setup for the baby, besides just the mobile, is a crib with like a heavy wooden block that covers it. Yeah. So they have to stick an oxygen mask into that. So when the baby is born, the baby can still breathe, but be covered to where if it cries, it doesn't make a lot of noise.
It's like they made the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh yeah, when there's a moment when it's just like floating when the water floods into the
I was like,
basement.
is that Moses? Is
Yeah.
this a Moses allergy? Or
Yeah.
allergy? Oh my God, allegory. Do you have a Moses allergy? I might. I'm allergic to rushes.
These 10
These
commandments.
10 commandments.
Okay. We see a lot of their life here, right? Them playing games,
Very
them
detailed,
yeah.
so detailed. And I think that's what like people love this movie. This movie was such a sleeper hit because it came out in 2018. Pandemic times in which families are going to be trapped together doing lots of board time activities.
Yeah.
And this, you feel it. Like this movie is like the apex of climate change, pandemic times, post-apocalyptic times.
Yeah, it's interesting watching this post-pandemic and not post-climate change, but as we're having,
Pre-climate change.
Yeah,
well, climate change.
yeah, we are in climate change and have been, but like at a point wherein we're seeing, more intense spikes this year and things like that. So it is yeah, it hits a nerve differently. But the pregnancy thing, again, going back to like not having kids, I did have the question of like, why do we have kids? Which is a question I have asked a lot. I have sat and thought about that, like for myself.
Sure.
But I think every generation, for as apocalyptic as we're seeing our own actual world right now, every generation has faced some level of like, it's the end of the world, right? And so boomers and Gen X kids grew up with the Cold War and grew up with, at any moment, just some asshole leans on a button or flips out, right? And we still face that. However, we have other things on our mind.
We know there's a little more red tape.
Yes.
And a lot more people underneath than I think.
Yes.
Than sort of the height of the 80s. Like there's just like 2 men in a bunker just being like, are we doing this? Are we doing this?
Yeah. Yep. But it begs the question of like, do you want to bring a child into this world?
Yeah.
And I think as humans, the question is always yes. Not that you have to have children if you don't want to have children. But I think the question is, yeah, that's what we do.
You should be like, that is a fundamental right of being an alive person.
And I can understand the argument that it's a fundamental responsibility, not only to the world, but to yourself as a living creature in the world. So anyways, I don't know, that the pregnancy moment when we were the reveal of her belly was just like, oh yeah, absolutely, I would not be doing that. I would have.
We just need to get the computer from Demon Seed in here to just speed up that pregnancy by like 9 times and just boom, baby, done.
I would have left all these other kids in a basket by the fire department. I would have been like, I know it's day 62, but we're done here.
I gotta go.
Okay, so there's also a really beautiful moment wherein Lee and Evelyn have a time to like dance together in the security control room, and they share earbuds.
So modern.
To listen to Neil Young.
Yep. Just the most innocent. But I love it. I mean, it's like, one, these two actors are amazing. I mean, especially Emily Blunt. Like, my God, like this woman can put so many levels of emotion on her face and understanding and thought, and like you can just read it. And I think there is a comfort level to like having, they're married, he's directing, like it's really clear that these two actors are so comfortable with each other. So in these moments, which are quiet, hence the title, it really does become about what can you express in silence? Like how many layers of human emotion, human thought, like what are they thinking? What are they feeling on your face? So this is not normal horror movie territory because it's so much rooted in family drama. Like this could be, if you took out the aliens and it was just a family trying to survive on the farm, like this is not far off from like Dust Bowl territory, or when nature turns against humans and like humans have to like band together in tight family units. I don't know, I thought a lot about like the fact that they're barefoot, the fact that it feels very Appalachian mountain range, a lot of the creature comforts that we cling to in modern society aren't appropriate anymore because they're hella loud.
Mm-hmm.
It does kind of have this sort of 1920s, 1930s Americana feel, like very Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting to bring up Dust Bowl, actually, because it goes back to what you were saying earlier too about like older storytelling would have focused a lot more on the practicality of survival.
Sure.
And
how are they getting their water? How are they getting their food? And we see that incidentally, but that's not where it's not the like beat by beat, right?
It's not, and it's so 21st century to think we have to think about humanity. We have to think about also in a day and age too. This movie does not deal with trans or queer kid issues, but I couldn't help but to think like I just would be remarkable to have more parents of kids these days just when they unintentionally ignore their child or misunderstand their child or maybe want something for the child that the child doesn't want, that they actually are there to hear it. John Krasinski's final beat in this movie is a gesture of understanding, which is all you want out of parents. And so while this movie has no line toward queer kids at all, I do think it's a way more important message, wherein I still meet people to this day who are my age who have teenage kids and cannot comprehend why their kid is like, I'm asexual, and they're like, I hate this sucks. I'm like, will you just calm down and just listen to your kid and be like, okay, great, tell me more about this.
I know that child is an extension of you in many ways, but they're also a completely autonomous human being themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
Now that's interesting you bring that up, because there is a scene early on with Reagan and Lee, the dad, in which like you get the impression John Krasinski is trying to work on this hearing aid and trying to, like, every time they go scavenging, he's tinkering in the basement, and he kind of like retools her hearing aid and like gives it to her, and she's like, enough, it's not gonna work, I'm tired of this. Like that idea of like false hope must be so crushing, especially when you're a teenager, in which like literally everything in the world is crushing, know, when you feel the crushing weight of just life. So to have that, and also you're living in a post-apocalyptic evil alien time. So this is just like one more disappointment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop trying to fix me, Dad.
Yeah. Hold on 2 seconds here. I'm just gonna take a quick pause because
some sound issues.
I'm having for the Quiet Place episode, I'm having sound issues.
Shall I pull out the Foley?
So you know how every now and then, like, one of your ears will just kind of like, you just get like a very like faint ring. It'll just kind of like
a little hum. Yeah. Oh
yeah, a little hum, and you just don't hear as well out of it, and then it comes back after a few seconds or whatever. That kind of just happened in my left ear.
You've been going.
And I was like, and it wasn't going away, and I'm like, oh fuck, it was going on for like a minute. I'm like, oh, this is weird. And so I just checked. I'm like, no, it's just the left.
You just got to jiggle some
speaker.
Wires.
Yeah, I was trying to jiggle wires, but that ain't doing nothing. I think I just lost the left speaker in my headphones is all that happened. So I'm just gonna take it off my left ear so it doesn't sound weird.
Fun.
Great. Okay. Where were we? What were we just saying?
We were talking about teenagers and kids.
Great. I think it's great that you bring up the way in which dad keeps trying to remake, to fix, to make a hearing aid that will work for Reagan, and none of them ever work. And the one that he does make doesn't really work, except that it gives her massive headaches from the feedback. And that's going to come into play. But the gesture here where he keeps trying to give it to her, where it's like, I know this is how you are, and I'll give this to you, and this is, she's like, no, stop. And ultimately, he just hands it to her. And I thought that was a nice gesture of like, well, listen, take it, do with it what you will.
Yeah. But we're past the age where I can put this on you.
I can't make you do something.
It's childhood to adulthood. Like when you have to kind of step away and be like, well, you're you're a fully baked human now,
Mm-hmm.
so you're going to make your decisions.
But one of the issues that Lee does have is he's got something against Reagan a little bit, and I think it's gendered rather than
Do you think
because
so?
I think it's just inherent gender bias that comes from living in a cisgendered world and a binary world, and
Could be, yeah.
it is in a sexist or misogynist world because there's a thing where he wants Marcus to go fishing with him,
I got to go
and it's
check
very
the fish
clear.
traps. Yeah,
Yeah, and Marcus wants to stay with mom.
yeah,
It's mama's kid, right? Like, and he's an
yeah,
indoor kid, and
yeah.
Reagan is wanting to do more. Reagan wants to go fishing, and he's like, "No, you stay and help your mom." And it really was like, boys go fishing, girls do housework.
Do you think that, because I read it as her not being able to hear is a liability in the field?
It could be that too. I think there's a lot at work here.
Sure. I mean, but both answers
Yeah.
are could, and also the fact that whatever, we see in a cutaway scene in which Lee is like on top of their silo burning the watch he wore when his son died, the
Yeah.
photos of so he is like struggling through some my youngest son is dead issues, and so maybe unintentionally he is bringing some of that resentment to Reagan.
Yeah, I think there's so many different ways to read why he doesn't take her fishing. And which is absolutely a thing that parents are going to run into.
Something that also I questioned was, why doesn't he let Reagan into the basement? Did you clock that?
I did. He tells her when she tries to go down and see mom, he's very much like, you cannot make any noise down there. He's very protective of new baby, I think.
Is the baby, the baby's not born
baby's not
yet,
there,
though.
but like,
but it's like, is that whole, because when she gets down there, it's like she's looking at the hearing aid stuff, the newspaper clippings, the CCTV, all that stuff, as if she's never seen it before. So I was like, why have they been keeping literally half of their working home away from their oldest child?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Is
I mean,
it gendered?
I think,
is it because of her? Is it because of her hearing? Is it resentment? Is it emotional stuff? Is it all of these things?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I read a lot of it as not trusting the girl, but I think it's truly fair that it is also a little bit of like subconscious resentment. You can tell yourself, it was nobody's fault what happened.
Yeah.
But you
I love
can't
all
get
my children
over.
equally.
Yeah. It's sort of like if your friend gets really drunk and says some really rude things to you.
Yeah.
You know that it's the alcohol talking, but it's still a little bit hard.
It's gonna
take a bit to re-enter the trust tree, with them.
Have I ever done that for you? Oh my God. I think about some of the things I've said to my friends, and I'm like, okay, can we just hard reboot here for a minute?
Yeah, and it just takes time.
A demon jumped into me.
Yeah,
this some real rude stuff last night.
Came in a green bottle, and his name was Jameson. So Reagan is like, fuck it, I'm gonna go off by myself then. She packs her backpack and like goes to visit the grave marker of Bo by the bridge.
So it's like the 1 year anniversary of this kid's death.
And
listen, Reagan, you mourn. Like, fuck them.
Yeah.
I was so with her. I was like, yeah, if they're not gonna let you go mourn your brother, like, you work it out. You've earned this.
They're all unaware of their own trauma. They all understand they're going through something really hard.
But there's no release for it.
Yeah.
Other than Neil Young.
And even like the release may be there, but the actual coping is not there.
Yeah.
And this is a very pandemic thing too, where we all were going through the same trauma, but all different traumas. All of our traumas were unique during the beginning of the pandemic and still to this day. But it became really hard to talk to people about the pain you were feeling because of COVID and the lockdowns and being shut in at home and Zoom meetings and blah, 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 because everyone's going through it. So you're like, what do I have to say that's going to make, this other person is like super immunocompromised. They're way more terrified than I am, but everybody wants to hear about your pain to
Yeah.
some limit, right? They want to help you through that, and they're not listening to what Reagan's pain is, and her pain is an
Let
unrequited
me.
trauma.
Yeah.
But she takes the space shuttle out there and cuts the speaker wire
I
with her
love that. That's so
multi-tool.
like, so she's so like, what an amazing way to be like, it's a beautiful balance.
Mm-hmm.
Like you understand this gesture of, okay, maybe I put this toy in your hand, but there's workarounds,
Yeah.
like nothing is ever as black and white as it seems. There's always a workaround.
Yep.
And it
it's
also shows her off to be mechanically inclined,
totally to think things through.
to be good with soldering irons and things like this, which is why I was like, Dad, why is this not a father-daughter project of this? But
Yeah.
I think we have to get through this so we can get to a quiet place too.
That's okay, great. But it's a really sweet moment where she cuts the wire, turns on the space shuttle, so just the lights are going off, and she sets it on his grave. At the creek, Marcus is scared because Dad starts talking in a normal volume, which is, I think, the first we've gotten in this movie.
Yeah.
And he's like, they'll hear you. And Dad's like, no. The river is loud, so they can't hear us over the noise of the river. And this is where I'm like, move by the river.
Yeah. Live by the river. Fuck. There's like, I was legit. I just saw like I saw like a wedding the other day that was at a dam. So there's constant flowing water all the time. And I was like, well, you just talk full volume all the time then, couldn't you? Noise camouflage.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is sweet. They go to the waterfall and Lee lets out a big yell and he encourages Marcus to do the same. And
echo.
But I love this because so the camera is behind the waterfall with our two actors when the dad does his big howl, so it's booming and loud. And you just know that the waterfall is covering up. But
it sounds loud to us. Yeah.
The second shot is from the other side of the waterfall when Marcus lets out his howl, and it's so faint because of the waterfall drowning it out. Such a beautiful shot. Such great sound work. So incredible. Marcus suddenly is a 45-year-old man in this moment when he asks Dad, like, do you blame Reagan for what happened? He's like, no. And he's like, well, she blames herself. Do you still love her? Of course I do.
And you're like, well, you better tell her that.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna meet other people in the woods.
Are we?
Kind
We're
of.
gonna see other people before they get eaten is what's gonna happen.
I like this scene, but I have a lot of questions about this scene.
Yeah.
They stop in the middle of the woods and they see a very old man standing outside of a house. And in front of him on the ground is the dead body of an old woman, presumably his wife, many years. And she's very bloody. And the camera shifts away. It shows gore to start, but it moves quickly off of it. It's one of our few moments of like,
there's very little gore in this.
Yeah. This is one of really two moments I can think of with blood in it. Yeah. And
but this old man in the woods is distraught.
He is
beyond grieving, distraught. And you see the look on John Krasinski's face. He's like, uh-oh, this is a fucking ticking time bomb. Grabs his son and they just hunker down next to a tree.
And this
old man
screams.
Oh my God.
And he gets fucking chomped. Now, what happened to the woman? Because it looked like she just had she had a bullet wound in her gut.
Really?
It just was like,
well, it could be death by alien. It could be, honestly, it could, she might have fucking fallen down and twisted her ankle. Aliens come. Because it's like that. Like, I love this conceit of the idea of screaming out in pain, the release of pain as the focus of the movie, and not the pain itself, but the release of pain. When we get to that fucking bathtub birth, it's so important. But this thing of like, You just saw your wife die. So not only do you have no one left as a partner to live with, but you have it's like having a loaded shotgun hanging above your head all the time, and all you have to do is open your mouth.
I just couldn't figure out how she got this wound, because if the
Yeah.
aliens did it, then my question is, what do the aliens do? Are they just killers, or do they eat? My
Yeah.
assumption is they eat.
But we never see that.
We never do.
They just seem like rage monsters.
Yeah.
Like they hear noise, they rage against it, they destroy, like they just like smash things and then kind of mosey on. Like the aliens in this are kept very much in the dark.
Yeah.
To us, the audience. And I think so that way it is more of that we can focus on the living process
Totally.
rather than the like, what am I actually looking at here?
Back at home, Evelyn is carrying laundry bags out of the basement. I love this because she's got a washer and dryer in the basement, but she's having to wash in the sink because can't use that washer dryer no more. And
again, you can take that to the river. Just go hit that on some rocks down by the river.
And she should be living by the river, you guys. Location. She is carrying these sacks of wet clothes back outside so she can hang them air dry. And we get Chekhov's stair nail.
The Chekhov's nail snag.
Nail snag. She snags the burlap bags on the nail and it pulls the nail straight up and down.
Listen, again, I think I get it. Footsteps on sand, it's much more interesting visually, interesting sound wise. It's such a, harkens back to like, when people were much more having to live much more primitive lives of like footsteps walking through the woods.
Yeah.
But y'all, house shoes.
Yeah.
They can't be that clompy.
No.
They just can't be.
No.
I mean, I'm not talking Timberlands. I'm talking like sneakers even.
Yeah. I don't know. The barefoot thing seemed weird to me. But she has this moment upstairs in the house where she's looking at these pictures. She grabs a frame. She's having memories. And then suddenly, oh, I feel wet on my legs. And her water has broken.
Uh-oh, it's coming. It's baby time.
She's got to get down to that basement.
Yeah.
Get the mattress covered to mute the sound. And then get this baby born.
Again,
And
they're like,
put
just
it
a
in
mattress? Like, just a mattress? Yeah. If I had a panic room, especially like something that I soundproofed to make it, soundproof panic room, there's gonna be like 9 locks on that door.
Yeah.
That only human fingers can open,
You'll need to find the local radio station and crash that and get all the soundproofing off the walls is what you need to do. That's where you need to go.
Yeah, soundproofing. I was like, okay, soundproofing is pretty wide. The other thing about this movie that you don't see, except in a big grand gesture later, is the like throw a rock in a different corner and then run.
Yeah.
Nobody does that in this movie. They do it with the rockets, kinda.
She does it with the egg timer.
Oh, okay.
She sets off an egg timer to make it run so that it will, when it goes off, it'll run away from her.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I thought the egg timer was just going.
I think she set the egg timer
okay.
far away from
Statement
her.
Redacted.
Ran down to the basement, meaning that it would run upstairs to the egg timer or whatever.
Yeah.
But that only buys her a little bit of time because Monster's not there yet, because as she goes down the stairs, this is the most unnerving part of this movie, is her foot goes fully close up, nail right through foot.
And then you see her pick it back up again. Oh man, the worst.
And she does an incredible job of like not making a noise, but she drops the frame and the glass shatters, which is what alerts the monster. So she turns on the red lights.
Yeah.
Roxanne turns on the red lights, and that is to alert
bad shit's going down.
Bad shit's going down in here.
/ also I'm having a baby.
Yes, yeah. She, in the distraction of the monster coming for her, she gets back upstairs to the bathtub.
Yeah.
is where she has to go. And we see, you know, her baby is wanting to be born right now, and
Yeah.
blood is pooling out of her. And we
There's a
see
monster just like circling around in other rooms. Yeah, always very close.
outside the bathroom door, you can see the shadow of the monster, and then you just see the hand on the wall of the monster coming up. It's such a good shot. Lee and Marcus are getting home. They see the red lights. He's like, listen, buddy, you got to snap out of your fear and you got to do something, make noise to distract the monster away from your mom. You know, you have to protect people.
Yeah.
That's your job.
Yeah. Mom needs us right now.
Right now. So Marcus goes and digs up the bottle rockets he had hidden in a.
Those are more than those are full on fireworks.
Those are full on fireworks.
Big
Yeah.
ass fireworks.
And he
Which
goes,
I love this as a plan. And I think, you know, sort of like on second watching, I was like, yes, more of that.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, if you know these things are drawn to sound, have no eyesight, I think I would like bury speakers and just run wire like out to various places around your compound. So that way you could like kind of lead them to a blank spot.
Yeah.
But like, and this is the sort of a grand gesture of this, like fireworks, but fireworks only work once.
Yeah.
Once they're going, which is a great, you know, like, oh shit plan.
Yeah.
But if you had like 5 different speakers, you could like draw them out to a field, then draw them to another place in the field. Man, just go to Radio Shack.
Yeah. So it's right when the fireworks go off, the alien runs out to go follow the sound, and that's when Evelyn is allowed to scream and have her baby.
Can you imagine? It's like the pain of childbirth is not enough. We have to like add on to it that if you make any noise or if your baby makes any noise, then you're dead. That's the that is a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
But somehow fireworks go off. Lee makes it back to the house. And he finds this is actually, I really like this scene in which he finds the bathtub filled with blood. And again, like finding actors in which that can convey layered emotions and layered thoughts on their face. And it's like, he thinks she's dead.
Yeah.
Like he thinks he's failed.
Yeah.
But she sort of taps on the glass and she had hidden with the baby in the toilet.
Mm-hmm. And he helps her down and the baby down to the basement, get the baby into the
Ark of the Covenant.
Into the Ark of the Covenant.
Yep.
Don't look, close your eyes.
But I like to watch Nazis melt.
I do too. Okay, so now we've got, but the other two kids are lost outside. So he's got to deal with my wife and my newborn are both in grave danger. I've got to take care of them. So which means I have to let go of these other kids and hope they have followed my lead well.
Yeah. This is an interesting scene because they're talking full voice.
They are.
Like, and so like something, they must have locked down the basement with the mattress. Again, if your contingency plan for like having a baby hinges upon a mattress as your only son, it's like whatever. But I think from this moment on, you know, at least I could feel my jaded, like, oh man, which she's like, you protect those children. That is your job. Is don't you come through, you know, you're like, oh, he's not going to make it out of this film.
No.
Like from that, but like, that's the kind of, it's like the basketball speech. It was like, this is the speech that's going to get us to the playoffs kind of thing.
It totally
This is the speech that's going to mean that you're going to have to sacrifice your life for your family.
She's doing her Hoosiers bit.
That's right. Rudy.
So out in the cornfield, awesome horror trope. Get the cornfield going.
Oh my God, which corn makes so much noise? This is actually, I think this is the scariest scene, in which you've got Marcus with the flashlight running through, you know, knowing that there's monsters everywhere and they're kind of chasing him through the corn because one, you can't see shit.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this in Onibaba, this idea of like conceal reveal.
Yeah.
Like you can't see more than like 2 feet in front of your face, which conceals you from the monster, but it also means there might be a monster 2 feet in front of your face.
Yeah. He starts hearing the snarl growling, that weird like woodpecker clicky noise that they make.
Sort of like whale bats.
Yep. Um, and he goes hauling ass. And I kept thinking about like what to do with the brown bear, right? You play dead. And black bears, make yourself bigger than the bear.
Yeah.
Brown bears, play dead. White bear, you're dead. It doesn't matter.
Because
You're
it's going to
fucked.
eat you if it wants
Yeah.
to.
But with these monsters, there is something to listen. If you could, I don't think they can smell. They
No,
can't
no smell, no
see, and I
sight.
don't think they
No,
can smell.
no.
So if you just lay down,
Yeah.
you should be okay.
And I think he makes it to the silo, right? He kind of like conks his head on the silo.
On the tractor.
Oh,
like
it's the
he
tractor.
hits
Okay.
he runs into the tractor, and like
Gotcha.
I think getting knocked out helps him a lot.
Yeah. And that's where, and then Reagan finds the flashlight that he left. And so now, okay, so at least we have the two kids have found each other, which I love. Like, yes, smart kids team up. Let's do this.
And the monster comes right up over Reagan's shoulder. And you're like, oh fuck, what are you gonna do? But then that hearing aid that dad gave her starts squealing like open mic night squealing feedback. And you can see the close-up of the ear, the giant ear that this thing has, the big parabolic mic that is the monster's ear. And it fucks right off. Misophonia. That's what that is. This thing has misophonia.
That's it.
Okay. Oh, also going back to Evelyn and Lee, I'm sorry, I'm just going to share my dumb jokes here, but there's a moment where she's like, where are those kids? Where are our kids? And he was like, listen, she's talking about Reagan. He's like, she's smart. She'll have found a place. And I wrote, a quiet place. And then in my stage direction, that in my rewrite of the script, he'll say a quiet
turns
place
to the camera.
And he'll go, a quiet place, and you'll see Emily Blunt, and you'll just see her close her eyes, smile, and nod.
Yes, a quiet place. Or he just turns to the camera, like in The Office.
Yep. Okay. So Lee then gets back out to go find these kids because of this inspirational speech.
The kids light a fire on top of the silo, hoping Dad will see it. Smart.
Yep.
Great.
And Reagan gets a little like, we can't wait here. He's never going to come for us. And
the fire goes out.
She's full petulant teen. Like, he doesn't love me. He'll come for you, Marcus, but not for me. And again, her storming off gets another one of her brothers in trouble because he goes after her, steps on the door of the top of the silo, and falls into quicksand. Corn. Well, it's definitely corn, but it's like it operates like quicksand.
This is rough. Like when you're being chased by monsters that can only hear, going inside a metallic chamber that everything's like ping, 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 like inside the popping corn chamber. Of death. Why you got that?
Yeah.
Why ain't that locked up?
So Reagan jumps in after him. The door had collapsed that he stood on, so he's got the door. She helps him get onto the door, like it's like the Titanic door, right?
Corn raft.
Yeah, the corn raft.
and unlike Titanic, they actually share the raft.
Yeah.
After two very dramatic quicksand corn near misses.
Yes. But the alien, of course, hears them, jumps in. Again, the sound of her earpiece scares it off, and it jumps. It like creates a Warner Brothers style hole
like
in the
fucking
wall.
Kool-Aid Man claws through the side. And I love this because you can see Reagan beginning to catch on at this moment. She's like, whoa, this thing is willing to claw itself out of this closed chamber to get away from whatever is going on with my hearing. This, whatever the latest upgrade was, it's doing something.
Yes. Meanwhile, when that creature ran out of the house earlier, it broke a water pipe, and water is just pouring into this basement. And you'll need to pick up a sump pump next time you're you're scavenging the Home Depot. And she is she also hears the creature down there.
Yeah.
She's like, I got to get over to baby in the Ark of the Covenant. And she goes and pulls the baby out. The baby's crying, which is probably part of what drew the creature in. And she pulls the baby up, and she steps behind like kind of like a mini waterfall of water coming down through the ceiling. So it's evocative of the earlier waterfall scene. So the baby
can make some noise,
but it's muffled. But that monster is right the fuck up on her.
I know, right?
And it's the sound of the silo busting open by Monster's friend
that kind of lures it away.
Yeah, that it then fucks right off.
There's nothing really scarier. Well, there's a lot of things that are really scary, but like the monster under the water is a big one. Like flooded basement, the monster just dives under, and you're like, well, it's under there somewhere.
Yeah.
Where's it gonna pop up?
Yeah.
Terrifying.
So the kids get reunited with Lee. They get out of the silo. They find Lee. They find Dad.
They hide in the tractor, or they hide in the truck.
Yeah, so he's like, we got to get you kids into the truck. Evelyn is now going to the camera, so she's going to see everything that's going to happen on these closed circuit cameras.
Which I was like, isn't that also their basement? Maybe that's like a different basement.
Yeah, I need to see a floor plan.
It's not, different floor plan. There was a lot of upstairs, downstairs in this movie, and at one point I was like, which compound are we in?
Yes. Well, he gets the kids into the truck, but he doesn't get in the truck yet. He like grabs a giant axe from the barn, and that monster just comes out of nowhere and just smacks him 50 feet across the field.
Well, it's like he starts making noise.
Yeah.
And then we have the like, full on single tear falling from, the like, it's very like platoon kind of, like, I know I'm going to get it. I'm sacrificing myself. And he's like, I love you, to his kids.
Yeah. So as much credit as I would like to give Reagan for starting to get it here, she doesn't. She about the earpiece.
It's just an inkling.
Yeah, it's just an inkling. The sound is too much for her, and she yanks it off. So the monster is no longer distracted. It can hear everything now.
Yeah.
And the monster hears those kids screaming in the truck. And so it's like, it's tearing this shit open like it's a birthday present. And it is ripping this truck open to get to these kids. And Dad stands up.
Yeah.
And he signs, I love you. I have always loved you, at Reagan. Single tear. And then he screams. And monster, yelp, 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 yelp. Do the monsters not have radar? Do they not know that they could go back to the truck? Or is the monster full now? It's not full.
Is it echolocation? It's fair. It's
because my thought is, all right, I'm going to go get the sure thing. But I am also going to check and see if this other thing I was just looking at is still there too.
Yeah, there's a lot of things running around.
Yeah.
And they continue to make noise, so
Marcus, I guess they have this system where not system, but the truck is up on top of the hill.
Yes.
So they can just put it in neutral and roll it back down to the house.
Which is kind of interesting. It's actually a really beautiful shot of them like kind of rolling to safety after watching this, the death of one of our main characters. And it's this idea of like, oh, it's so exotic seeing a car moving.
Yeah.
Even though it's not working, but how the conceit of the movie has worked because now, everything is considered. We can still, and it won't make much noise, and it will get them out of there a hell of a lot faster than footsteps.
Yes. So they get back to the kids get back to the house with Mom. Mom has seen everything. We don't have to have a big long explanation of what happened to your dad. Mom's got Dad's shotgun. They get into the basement or into the control room, wherever this is.
Yeah.
And I think this is a little drawn out, watching Reagan try to piece it all together, because I'm like, no, we got it. Just give us the moment. Because we see the whiteboard from earlier of like, how many have been spotted? 3. What is its weakness? ? question mark, question mark.
Weakness.
And then right next to the what is its weakness is the New York Post headline. It's sound.
Oh.
Their weakness is their strength.
Oh, I get it.
But this goes on for a hot minute, and I'm like, I know you're trying to draw out the tension, but I'm actually getting annoyed that you don't just get right to it. Here comes the monster again. I love that it just like clomps down the stairs like it fucking owns this place.
Yeah, like it is no, has nothing. It's like, there's things here. Oh well, I'll get to them eventually.
But it gets down there, and Reagan's earpiece is making all the audio down there squelch.
Yeah.
And it gets fucking pissed.
Yeah.
And it smashes some TVs.
Just like flailing around on its back. Marcus has got the baby. So we've got like kind of mom with a shotgun, Marcus with a baby, Reagan sort of piecing together the radio equipment. It's like a cool like Reservoir Dogs triangle in which like everybody has a gun drawn on everybody, but some of those guns are technology.
Yeah. And after it smashes the TV, it starts coming towards them again, and mom's drawing shotgun and is afraid to pull the trigger, right?
Yeah.
She's like, what, will the shotgun kill it? Will the shotgun bring more of them? They don't want to make noise.
We know that they'll bring more of them for sure, or like any noise, but there is a sense of like they're armored. Like, and when we see their faces, there's such a weird design, but like cool and innovative weird.
Yeah.
In that, so they have their ear thing on the side, but their entire face, where we would normally have a face, doesn't have eyes or a mouth or anything like that. It does have a mouth. It has a big bitey mouth, but it's got these almost like, it's like shell plating.
Like shingles almost.
Yeah.
Shingles that pull back to open, like its whole head is a mouth.
Yeah. But this idea that they're entirely armored and the only time they let down their armor is to let in sound.
Yeah.
Weakness.
What is its weakness?
Strength.
Well, Regan finally figures this out, turns up the radio mic and all of the speakers in the room, and just throws her earpiece right against that microphone, and squelching, which also drowns out baby crying.
Yeah.
Monster goes fucking nuts and collapses to the floor. Such a cheap fake monster death here. I'm like, there's not a person in the theater being like, oh good, they killed it.
It totally that's gone for good, never to be seen again. Sure enough, it gets back up,
mouth wide open, coming at mom and kid, and mom blows its fucking face off.
Yep.
Now it dead.
Now it's definitely dead.
But on the screen, on the closed circuit TV that wasn't smashed, a couple other screens, they see two more monsters racing their way.
Oh, many more.
Many more, yeah.
It's like every screen has 2 or 3 monsters.
Yeah, they're all coming after them. And Reagan, there's a moment of fear. I love this beat to close this movie. There's a moment of like, oh, fuck. And then Reagan dials up all of the loudspeakers.
Yeah.
And mom cocks the gun. Very slight smile on both their faces. Fuck yeah, let's ride.
Let's ride. Let's kick ass. End movie. How did you feel about this ending? Did you think that there was going to be like, we're going to get a big showdown between these monsters, or?
I liked it. I did like it because in sci-fi alien horror, I think it's very easy, and I'm not against this at all. Like we've talked about Aliens many times on this podcast, and I think Aliens is a really great example of sci-fi action horror.
Yeah,
and where it is a shoot 'em up, where it is super action. And I like that this movie isn't action. This movie is thriller. This movie is tension. Yeah. But at the end, there is a moment of fun. I mean, it's scary because they're going to have to go fight monsters, and they haven't really had to fight them.
Yeah.
But it's one of the few moments where it's like, hell yeah, Reagan gets to be involved in the family protection. I think in some ways Marcus gets to do what he wants to do, which Marcus wants to be homebody, you know?
Marcus wants to protect.
Yeah, Marcus wants to protect in the home, and Reagan wants to be out in the world. And mom is like, fuck, we're doing it. We're a
Yeah.
family unit. Everybody has their job. We
Yeah.
are working on all cylinders. We're all grown up, and we're gonna take these fuckers on. And we don't have to watch them do this. Maybe they die. Maybe they fuck up real bad. They're overwhelmed. I don't know. But I like that the last beat is less about we're going to definitely kill monsters and more about our
We have the
family is fully
tools.
together.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We are united against these things, and for me, it's the idea of because so comparing Day of the Dead, in which we have the scientists, Doctor Frankenstein, madman who's covered in
Mhm.
blood, trying to figure out how to get rid of the zombies, but or he's actually just training them, and this idea of science and innovation as a liability
Yeah.
versus in this movie it's the only strength. So we're actually kind of denied the great shoot 'em up ending
Yeah.
because it's like we were using pea shooters, our guns have very little effect,
Uh-huh.
but we have found the like a bomb of monster protection here.
Yeah.
And that's the high point of the film, is actually the innovation, not the destruction.
Yeah. Well, shall we rate this movie?
Sure, why not?
We'll start with Sasha scale, our squeamish approachability scale for the horror averse. I'll give it a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not at all approachable if you're horror squeamish, and 10 being super approachable if you're horror squeamish. I would give on that scale, I'd give A Quiet Place like 6 quicksand silos out of 10. Like, it's jump scare tension fest. Like, that's really it. It's a matter of like how much you want to do the tension of it all. And I find it fun in that tension sort of way. It is scary. Like, it's truly scary as a movie. It's not spoopy, it's not
Nope.
spooky,
Nope.
it's not bloody, it's not
Nope.
gory. It is almost entirely bloodless. Like, that nail foot thing is probably the hardest
Yeah.
moment.
And childbirth.
And childbirth, yeah. Also, trigger warning that the opening scene is about a child dying. Like, that's the inciting incident here. So if you're squeamish about blood and gore only, then this movie's gonna be fine for you. But yeah, just know it's just a tension fest. That's really it. Lots of good jump scares and what's about to happen sort of things. But it feels very, didn't check the rating, but it feels very PG-13 horror to me. What about you, Cecil, as a horror film?
I love this movie. I think it definitely took a lot of post-apocalyptic monster movie tropes, and because of the specific weakness, strength of the monster, it really hinged itself on that, and definitely allowed itself to be much more about this family than about like, this is a family that is standing in as a metaphor for America or something like that. It's
Yeah,
really, no,
yeah.
like, we're just watching this family try to fucking survive. Pretty smart. I love all the details. Like, this movie is so detailed. What they're wearing, how they spend their time, what their space is like. And I think there's so much smart, really good filmmaking that went into that. And of course, the sound design is pretty outstanding. It listen, there's a lot of silence. There's a lot of slow, there's a lot of quiet moments. So if you're looking for action packed, this is maybe not as packed with action, but the action that is there is pretty darn great. So yeah, I think 7 out of 10. USA space rockets with their sound cut.
Yep. Let's figure out what movie we will watch next. You have a scare die, I have a style die. We'll roll these dice, see what 2 things come together, and we'll find a movie that matches those 2 items. So if you roll a 1, Cecil, our next movie's scare is a wild card, whatever scare we want. If you roll a 2, vampire. 3, mythological. 4, sadist. 5, when animals attack. Or 6, something witchy. What's our scare?
That's a 6.
We're gonna do that witchy. Okay, we're gonna match up your witchy scare with the style I roll. If I roll a 1, our style is giallo. 2, urban. 3, something from the 1970s. 4, something from the last 5 years. 5, something rural. Or 6, WTF, just some kind of horror movie that you're like, what the fuck did I just watch? So let's see what we got for witchy. I got a 2, urban and witchy.
Fun.
Well, let's look at what we put on our list, and then we'll see what people on Letterboxd thought about this potential combination. So we can flex a little bit on what witchy kind of means, maybe. That's
Sure.
kind of why we chose it in that wording, but there's a couple of obvious ones. Inferno, which is the second of Dario Argento's witch series, right?
Mother of sighs, no, mother of tears, mother of
sure,
what? Mother of sad, one of those mothers.
yeah. And also Suspiria from 2018. We've already covered the original. We have not covered the remake. Takes place in Berlin.
Oh my gosh, very, very Berlin.
Very Berlin.
Ich bin ein Berliner.
And Cat People? Cat People's witchy.
This is pretty witchy, and it's definitely like urban city fears. Like the original Cat People has definitely got some of that. It's almost more like witch, cat, werewolf hybrid.
Yeah.
So not technically a witch, but definitely has got like some phenomenal black dresses and veils and swoopy hair, which is a tenet of all urban witches, I think.
Yes. So let's look at what folks on Letterboxd had to say. Volatile Spider says Fear Street absolutely works here. I don't think of Fear Street as urban. It felt suburban.
That's suburban.
Suburban.
Clash of the Suburbans.
Streaming Skull says Bell Book and Candle, way more comedy.
Definitely comedy. I mean, listen, Bell Book and Candle is a delightful fucking movie. But definitely leans into the definitely leans into the spoopy rather than the spooky.
Yeah. Brave Crab gives us Starry Eyes from 2014. A hopeful young starlet uncovers the ominous origins of the Hollywood elite and enters into a deadly agreement in exchange for fame and fortune. That's urban.
Is this the Death Becomes Her?
Maybe, although it looks way more horror-y.
Scary.
Yeah. Yeah, Hollywood is urban, and that sounds witchy as shit. Ganymede's Cup, Don't Knock Twice. A mother desperate to reconnect with her troubled daughter becomes embroiled in the urban legend of a demonic witch.
Uh-oh.
They say not super city-centric, but feels urban.
Okay.
Squin gives us Lords of Salem. Not seen this. Is this urban?
Good one. It is. I mean, it's urban as in it's more village urban, but this is definitely got the witches.
Yeah.
And it definitely has that like closed bottle, like your neighbors might be you're out to get you.
Yeah. Oh, it's they're taking revenge on Salem, Massachusetts. I don't know if that means it takes place there, but that's still
it does take place. It does take place in Salem.
So that's small town.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Which actually have we actually done Rosemary's Baby on this show?
We did do Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, okay, yes. That's right.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, it's been so I'm like, what have I just watched in my life? And what have we watched for this show?
Doreen S says A Dark Song.
Ooh,
which is from 2016. A determined young woman and a damaged occultist risk their lives and souls to perform a dangerous ritual that will grant them what they want.
Ooh,
it's interesting.
Ooh, IFC film. This sounds turning to those dark arts. Get what you want.
Weaponized Toaster gives us As Above, So Below. Dark secret below the Parisian catacombs. I don't know enough about As Above, So Below.
I know, and I think somebody gave us some pushback online because we were thinking it was a zombie film, and apparently is very much not a zombie film. So maybe a witchy film. We're just like it takes place in Paris,
in the catacombs. Yeah,
and we have is also sort of seconding that witchy flavor to it. They said it's a kind of a different flavor of witch, which sounds kind of intriguing.
That is the definition of witchy.
Yeah, witchy.
The Weaponized Toaster also brought up Manhattan Baby from 1981. Young girl on vacation in Egypt is given a mysterious charm.
Uh-oh.
But she gets back to New York City. Will this supernatural force be unleashed
I don't know.
on the Big Apple?
1981, this movie could be
It
this
could be
movie could be
incredibly
Oh,
awful.
this movie looks redonkulous.
It
And
does.
oh, it's directed by Lucio Fulci as well, which means it probably will be redonkulous.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay, good to know.
Yes, yes, bring it.
Beep
Bring it,
boop.
weaponized toaster.
Beep boop says Children of the Corn 3, Urban Harvest. We've done part 2 and part 1.
It has
Urban
urban in the
Harvest.
title.
It does. It is witchy. I mean, they're like weird
Yeah.
Satan worshipy
Culty
culty.
witchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's neighbors. They're neighbors.
It's Candy Warhol gives us In Fabric.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
Fabric has been like we've God was it Andy Scahill has been like trying to get us to watch that damn movie for 2 years now.
Fifth Hammer gives us The House of the Devil, 2009. College student takes a babysitting job on the night of a rare lunar eclipse.
Great movie, not urban.
Yeah.
Like matter of fact, the opposite of urban.
Yeah, I want to
Because it's like
differentiate between
house in the country.
because
Is
urban doesn't mean not rural.
yes. This is very rural. Like this is like
Yes.
no one can hear you scream out in the countryside, kind of small college town.
Yeah. There's a 2023 movie from Aldo Hayda called Huesera, Huesera, Huesera. I don't know if I'm trying to do it. Is Mexico, Peru. Valeria's joy at becoming a first-time mother is quickly taken away when she's cursed by a sinister entity.
Uh-oh.
I don't get a sense from that description how urban that movie is. Season of the Witch, Corvidae gives us
Sure.
Season of the Witch.
Yeah, George Romero.
Um,
This is almost more again this like the definition of like suburban. Like what happens when a suburban housewife, a
yeah,
white picket fence housewife,
yep,
kind of reclaims her femininity and her magic. So
yeah,
borderline. I'm borderline on Season of the Witch.
yeah. Baba Yaga, 1973, is a suggestion from Akir. And don't get a sense of where this takes place at all, but seems very witchy. And Beloved of Isis says the skeleton key, good old New Orleans magic.
Oh yeah, Skeleton Key.
Yeah.
But again, not it's kind of takes place on a plantation out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, it does. Okay,
They do go to New Orleans.
Yeah,
but the majority of the action is like once you're isolated and on this like super creepy haunted mansion.
I think some of the spirit. Okay, so that's the end of that of all the movies that we have.
We got some
in
great
front of us.
suggestions
We got
here.
some good ones. I will say, I think kind of the spirit of picking urban as a style is really seeing the city.
Yeah. Whatever,
and especially if
the
city is part of the character, right? Like,
yeah.
Rosemary's Baby gives you New York City.
Yep.
Even like it doesn't give me as much as I want, but
Hunger.
Last Night in Soho gives you a little bit of London.
Yeah.
Suspiria gives you Berlin.
Definitely.
Most definitely. Especially the remake. So
okay, so what we got here? Ours were Suspiria, Inferno, Cat People.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely intrigued by Manhattan Baby.
I'm very intrigued by Manhattan Baby. It could be just absolute garbage, but it is Fulci though.
Sure. Also, one that we left off the list, which is like an outlier, The Exorcist 2.
Oh.
So it's like, The Exorcist, Reagan gets possessed by Pazuzu, the devil. Exorcist 2 is like she's like it's one of those weird like the movies that's like so weird that the next Exorcist 3 just decides to completely ignore that movie existed.
I'm trying to type it into Just Watch, and it is not wanting to show me Exorcist 2 The Heretic. 1977. Here we go. This is city-ish. I thought about The Exorcist, but it felt like it's Georgetown.
That's definitely very urban. Listen,
Yeah.
when I lived in DC, I used to walk to the Exorcist steps all the time.
And so that feels like it could be urban. My only thing is like, is it witchy
It's not
if
really
it's
witchy as
just
it is more
Satan-y?
demony.
Yeah.
I feel that. Okay, I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, The Exorcist 2 might be one of those weird, because it's about like hypnotism and they're trying to, I don't know. It's very strange.
I think a strong case could be made for as above, so below, since we've already gotten it
Into
wrong
it.
once before, and maybe we
Yeah,
should start getting it right what it is about.
I can see that.
It's Paris. It sounds very specifically the catacombs of Paris,
Yeah,
but that is part of the city.
I've been there.
There's absolutely no way you could get me into those.
No,
I do
it's
not like cavey things. I do not like tight
Jeffrey.
spaces.
Should we do that then? I mean, there's strong cases could be made for a lot of these, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of into the like some of these other ones, like the oh my god, Manhattan Baby looks. Do we want something kind of bonkers, like Lucio Fulci style, or do we want some more modern, something that's going to be like maybe more dark, scary, edgy, scary?
Let's go for dark, edgy, scary. I
Okay.
think that's probably the play here. I'm really sad to let go of Manhattan Baby.
I'm also sad to let go of Inferno, which is
Oh
a
yeah.
stylized New York City that looks like literally it's just like New York City backdrop on this film. It's
That's
really
true. We have two really good like giallo directors doing their versions of New York City, and Lucio Fulci and Dario Argento.
yeah.
Man, these are some good ones. I kind of thought this was going to be a bit of a thin category, but we've got some tough ones here. Um we could take Inferno, Suspiria, Manhattan Baby, and As Above So Below and roll a four-sided die.
You have a four-sided die in there?
I think I do. Hold on, let's dump out. I love that I don't ever play role-playing games, but yet I have a bag of dice. So here we go. Yeah, I have a four-sided die. Do you want to do that? Do you want to
Yeah.
leave it up to
Listen,
fate?
I will always leave it up to fate.
Okay, so one is Inferno,
Okay.
two is New Suspiria,
Yeah.
three is Manhattan Baby,
Okay.
four is As Above, So Below. How's that sound?
Great.
All right, let's do our little pyramid die. That is a 4. We're going to do As Above, So Below.
It was fated.
It was fated. That's really exciting. Okay, good. I'm glad I revealed how much I am claustrophobic. See if this movie deals with that at all. So, great. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And if you have thoughts on A Quiet Place or ideas for a good witchy urban horror film, let us know on Instagram at randomhorror9 or on our Patreon, where we have public discussion threads for each episode, and you do not have to be a paying member to participate in those. So watch As Above, So Below with us this week, and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no unsecured nails on your stairs or nothing. Boo.
Boo.